Good day, this is Melvin Ledesma and I will be talking about historical and philosophical foundation of curriculum. But before going over to the historical and philosophical foundations of curriculum, let me first talk about what is curriculum from different points of view. Then we will go over to the two models of curriculum development. And then that's where we enter to our main discussion, which is the two of the four foundations of curriculum. Let's go. The first one is, let's look at curriculum from different points of view. We all know that curriculum has a lot of definitions. And because of this, the concept of curriculum is sometimes characterized as elusive, confusing, or fragmentary. And however, numerous definitions indicates dynamism that connotes diverse interpretation of what curriculum is all about, and the definition are influenced by modes of thoughts, pedagogies, political, as well as cultural experiences. Curriculum is a dynamic process. Development connotes changes which are systematic. So when we say change for the better, it means any alteration, modification, or improvement of existing condition. To produce positive changes, development should be purposeful, planned, and progressive. This is how curriculum evolves. So this time, let's go over to the two models of curriculum development. There are two main persons who are really known for this one. The first one is Ralph Tyler, and the second one is Hilda Taba. Let's go over with Ralph Tyler's basic principles, which we know as Tyler's rationality. The first question that he asked is, what educational purposes should the school seek to attain? And what does this talk about? It actually talks about the purposes of the school. The second question is, what educational experiences can be provided that are likely to attain these purposes? And this also talks about the educational experiences related to the purposes. Next, he also asks, how can educational experiences be effectively organized? Its main focus is the organization of the experiences. And lastly, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained or not? And it talks about the evaluation of the experiences. Mainly, Ralph Tyler's model talks about these four principles: the purposes of the school, the educational experiences related to the purposes, the organization of the experiences, and the evaluation of the experiences. On the other hand, we have Hilda Taba. When Hilda Taba, it's actually, when you talk about Hilda Taba, he's known for the linear model, which is rooted from what Tyler's presented. So she just improved Tyler's rationality by making a linear model. If you observed a while ago, Tyler's model is somehow circular, going back to what was evaluated. She actually believed that teachers who taught or teach or implement the curriculum should participate in developing it. Also, she presented 7 major steps to her model where teachers could have major input. And what are these models? First, the diagnosis of learners' needs and expectations of the larger society. Next, the formulation of learning objectives. The selection of learning content. The organization of learning content. Selection of learning experiences, organization of learning activities, and lastly, she also talks about the determination of what to evaluate and the means of doing it. So this is mainly the focus of Hilda Taba's model. So it's actually linear. So it starts and it actually ended, which is somehow an improved version of what Tyler's has given a while ago. So, do you have any question? Now let's look at the different foundations of curriculum. There are actually 4 major foundations of curriculum. The first one is philosophical, historical, psychological, and lastly we have social. And my main presentation will be focused on the philosophical and historical foundations of curriculum. We'll start with the philosophical foundations of curriculum. And this foundation is actually grounded to the definition of philosophy. So what do we mean by philosophy in the first place? Philosophy provides educators, teachers, and curriculum makers in the field of curriculum with framework for planning. So it actually implementing and evaluating curriculum in schools. It helps in answering what schools are for, what subjects are important, what students should learn, and what materials and methods should be used. In decision making, philosophy provides starting point and will be used for the succeeding decision making. So, what is philosophy of a curriculum planner do? Actually, the philosophy of a curriculum planner or implementer or evaluator reflects his or her life experiences, common beliefs, social and economic background, and education. So, this time, let's try to look at um, this Tyler's view of philosophy in relation to school purposes. If you can see, the center of this framework is the school purpose, and it revolves around the different relations to it, which is the studies of learners, use of philosophy, the use of psychology of learning, the studies of contemporary life, and the suggestions from subject specialists. This Ralph Tyler's framework shows that philosophy is actually one of the five criteria in selecting educational purposes. Now let's talk about the four educational philosophies which are the main focus of this foundation. The first one is perennialism. We also have essentialism, progressivism, and reconstructionism. And in my presentation, as I present one by one each educational philosophies, our main discussion will be focusing on the its aim of education, the role, its role of education, its focus in the curriculum, and the curriculum trends in this time. Okay, so now let's go over with perennialism. So what is its aim of education? So it actually focus to develop or to educate the rational person and to cultivate the intellect. So this is the main aim of perennialism of education. Next, what is its role of education? Accordingly, teachers help students think with reason. If you can see, teachers here is a giver of reasons to, or help students think of a reason. And for the focus in this curriculum, the focus of this philosophy in the curriculum is classical subjects, the literary analysis, and the curriculum is constant. And the curriculum trends in this philosophy is use of great books and return to liberal arts. That is actually what perennialism is all about. So now, the second one, we will talk about essentialism. So we'll also focus on the aim of education, the role of education, focus in the curriculum, and curriculum trends of this educational philosophy. The first one is, it actually aims to promote the intellectual growth of the developed individual and educate a competent person. If you can see previously, the aim of perennialism is to educate the rational person, just a rational person. But in here, you are now promoting the intellectual growth of individuals and to educate them to be a competent person. And its role of education is, the teacher is the sole authority in his or her subject area or field of specialization. So authority is in there for the teacher. So that's for essentialism. And the focus in the curriculum of this philosophy is essential skills of the three R's and essential subjects of English, science, history, math, and foreign language. And that is why until now, even here in USA, they are still focused on these four main essential subjects: the English, science, history, and math alone. And these foreign language are actually integrated to their curriculum, as you know, until now essentialism is existing. And last one is curriculum of trends. So it actually talks about the excellence in education, back to basics, and cultural literacy. So that is actually what essentialism is all about. The next one is progressivism. Its aim of education is to promote democratic and social living, actually. And then the role of education is knowledge leads to growth and development of lifelong learners who actively learn by doing. Then the focus in the curriculum is subjects that are interdisciplinary, integrative, and interactive. Curriculum is focused on students' interests, human problems, and affairs. If you can see in progressivism, it actually now it's not focused mainly in teachers as having the authority inside the classroom. So take note, knowledge leads to growth and development of lifelong learners who actively learn by doing. So it's not teachers who are feeding the students, it's now the students who are learning by themselves, learning by doing. And it's actually curriculum trends is the school reforms relevant and contextualizes curriculum and humanistic education. And lastly, the reconstructionism. Its aim of education is to improve and reconstruct the society. So it's education for change. So it's more of going beyond what is expected um, of oneself. So it's actually extending oneself to the community. So the role of education is teachers act as agents of change and reform in various educational projects, including research. So if you can see the difference of this reconstructionism and the previous one, which is the progressivism, is actually in here teachers is still plays a vital role in reforming and conducting change in various educational projects. And the focus of or this focus in the curriculum is um, on present and future trends and issues of national and international interests. And lastly, the curriculum trends is equality of educational opportunities and education and access to global education. So it's more of progressing students, not only focusing in one inside the classroom, but also extending oneself to the global education, to the society by conducting researches. And that is all about the philosophy foundation of education. So in this foundation, we talked about um, what is the basis of philosophical foundation of curriculum, and also the four different educational philosophies as perennialism, philosophies, essentialism philosophy, the progressivism philosophy, and the reconstructionism philosophy. This time, let's try to focus on the next major foundation of curriculum, which is historical. And in this presentation, we'll be focusing more on a different person who are really known in the field of curriculum and who have actually contributed a lot in this field. So that's what talks about historical foundations of curriculum. So from the word historical, we are now focusing on the history of foundation, the history of curriculum. So how it formed, and based on these people, we came up with our definition of curriculum. So let's start with our historical foundation of curriculum with the first person as Franklin Bobbitt. Franklin Bobbitt actually presented curriculum as a science that emphasizes on students' need. Curriculum prepares for adult life. So it's actually he's one of the first persons presented about curriculum theory, and align with the year he existed is actually Warren Charters, wherein he considered curriculum also as a science which is based on students' need and teachers plan the activities. So if you can see in here in the belief of Warren, teachers are actually what is this? Teachers are actually planning the activity, and students um, based I mean the curriculum is based from students' needs. So it's more of looking at what the students need, and the students and then from that point teachers will be planning the activities. The next one is William Kilpatrick. He viewed curriculum as purposeful activities which are child-centered. So the purpose of curriculum is child development and growth. If you can see in the previous, or if you can remember in the previous presentation, Franklin Bobbitt and William Kilpatrick has similar belief, wherein curriculum prepares students or everyone for adult life, which is the same thing as what William Kilpatrick is talking about. The purpose of curriculum is child development and growth. And the next one is Harold Rugg. And Harold Rugg talks about curriculum should develop the whole child. He emphasized social studies in the curriculum, and the teacher plans the lesson in advance. So, and that is why until now we are having in our curriculum social studies is being integrated. And according to Harold Rugg, it's really important for social studies to be integrated to our curriculum. To know about history of one's country, history of one's heroes, and so and so on. So that is why until now we are practicing that. So that is actually what Harold Ruggs contributed to the field of curriculum. The next one is Hollis Caswell. He sees curriculum as organized around social functions of themes, or organized knowledge and earners' interests. So if you can see, his belief more of the social functions of curriculum, and actually its main focus is organizing knowledge and earners' interests. The next one is Ralph Tyler, who is really known for the foundation of curriculum. He believes that curriculum is a science and as an extension of school's philosophy. So it's a science, and we all know science is a study of everything. So it's an extension of school's philosophy. So, and that is why we have mission and vision, and this mission and vision are actually integrated to one's school's curriculum. Okay, that is what Ralph Tyler's talking about. So historical foundation of curriculum. The historical development shows the different changes in the purposes of principles and content of the curriculum. So the different changes are influenced by educational philosophy, psychology, and pedagogical theories. This implies that curriculum is ever-changing, putting in knowledge and content from many fields of discipline. And that is why these philosophers have really played a big role in coming up with the definition of curriculum. And this is the main foundation of what historical foundation of curriculum is all about. And that ends my presentation.